On July 6th, Lisa Marie and I flew to Oslo, Norway.
We spent 3 days at the Thief Hotel, which sits on an island called Tjolholmen, which literally translates to Thief Island. Hundreds of years ago, this was where thieves were publicly punished. Today, it is one of Oslo's most modern neighborhoods, filled with art galleries, waterfront restaurants, and striking contemporary architecture.
After passing the historic National Theater, we wrapped up the evening with an incredible vegan dinner at Norwegian.
The next morning, we walked over to the National Museum, the largest art museum in the Nordic countries and home to thousands of years of Norwegian art and design. The museum is home to some of Norway's most iconic works, including Bridal Procession on the fjord and Edvard Munch's legendary The Scream.
After lunch, we explored the Astrup Fearnley Museum, where cutting-edge contemporary art meets beautiful waterfront architecture. We loved Unicorn by Norwegian artist Bjørn Sethra. Like much of contemporary art, it's meant to be experienced more than explained.
That evening, we drove into the hills above Oslo for dinner at Froggensederen, with incredible views overlooking the city. Dating back to 1891, it's one of Norway's best preserved examples of dragon-style architecture.
The next day, we visited one of Oslo's most iconic landmarks, the Oslo Opera House. It was designed to blur the line between architecture and public space by inviting everyone onto its roof. The interior contrasts beautifully with the icy exterior, using warm oak inspired by Norwegian shipbuilding.
Nearby, we explored the Munch Museum, home to the world's largest collection of Edvard Munch's artwork. One of Munch's masterpieces is The Sun, a massive painting celebrating light, life, and the power of nature. Inspired by Munch, we made our own artwork. AI compared my sketch with thousands of Munch's drawings to find its closest match.
For dinner, we visited Contrast, a 2 Michelin star restaurant celebrating the best of modern Nordic cuisine.
We then flew west from Oslo's fertile valleys to Bergen, the gateway to Norway's famous fjords. Outside the airport, a quirky piece of public art welcomed us by asking, "Bergen?"
There we stayed at Opus 16, named after Edvard Grieg's piano concerto in A minor, Opus 16. Often called Norway's greatest composer, Grieg introduced the country's music to the world.
We wandered through the fish market before exploring Bryggen, Bergen's iconic waterfront. These colorful wooden buildings have welcomed merchants for nearly 900 years, and their narrow wooden alleyways are just as charming as the waterfront itself.
We then took the Floribanen funicular up to Mount Flurien, where panoramic views stretched across Bergen, the surrounding mountains, and the fjords beyond. Dinner was at Left Hand Cafe and Bistro.
The next day, we explored Kode, where world-class art is spread across 4 unique museums. This is War and Pieces, turning an elegant dinner table into a haunting reminder of war, using thousands of broken porcelain fragments.
That afternoon, we set off on a fjord cruise to Malströmmen, gliding through landscapes shaped by glaciers over thousands of years.
Before roads connected these communities, families traveled to churches like this by boat across the fjord. This is Mo, one of the last villages before the fjord narrows.
We then joined our 6-day backroads adventure with our first stop at Tvindevassen waterfall.
We arrived at the Stalheim Hotel, opened in 1885 and famous for its breathtaking views over the Norway Valley.
For lunch, we visited Sivlegard, a family farm dating back to the 1500s.
From there, we hiked to Nali, where breathtaking views stretch across the valley below. Before dinner, we toured the Stalheim Folk Museum, where 25 historic buildings preserve what everyday life in rural Norway was like centuries ago. We were served dinner in an old farmhouse.
The next day, we shuttled to Norway Fjord, where we hiked the old postal road, once used to deliver mail between remote fjord communities long before modern roads existed. Afterwards, we took our first ferry ride. We got off the ferry in Solvorn, where we found locals cooling off with a swim in the glacier-fed fjord. There, we checked into the Valiker Hotel, Norway's oldest family-run hotel, welcoming guests continuously since 1690.
The next day, we headed to Nygaardsbrunn, a glacier that's part of Jotedalsbrunn, the largest glacier on mainland Europe. Once our crampons were on, we stepped onto the glacier, where the brilliant blue ice has been slowly carving this valley for thousands of years. After getting back down, we had lunch at Breheim Senteret, the visitor center.
Tuesday began at the Norwegian Glacier Museum in Feyerland, where we learned how glaciers have sculpted Norway's dramatic landscape. Rather than do another hike, I decided to rent an e-bike and explore at my own pace. Eventually, I arrived at Supellebreien Utsiktspunkt. Supellebreien Utsiktspunkt, where the glacier spills down the mountainside towards the valley below. Then I rode through Mundal, home to the Norwegian book town, where dozens of bookstores are tucked into old barns, boathouses, phone booths, and historic buildings.
After lunch, we jumped between the glacier-fed fjord and a floating sauna, an invigorating Nordic tradition. We ferried to Balestrand for 2 nights at the Kviknes Hotel, famous for its Swiss-style architecture and spectacular fjord setting. After dinner, we walked through Balestrand and visited St. Olaf's Church, which is believed to have inspired the chapel in Elsa's coronation scene in Disney's Frozen.
Day 5 of our backroads adventure brought our biggest challenge yet, an 8-mile hike with 3,000 feet of climbing to the top of Raudmalen, where panoramic views stretched across Sognefjord. At the summit stood Bali, a public mountain hut offering hikers a place to rest and shelter from the elements. The next morning, we took a ferry back through the fjords to Bergen, where we took a plane north to Ålesund. There we drove to the Storfjord Hotel, a secluded woodland retreat where we love the blend of traditional log construction and warm modern Scandinavian design. We took a boat through Fjord, a UNESCO-listed landscape carved by glaciers and lined with waterfalls. Our captain brought our boat right up to a waterfall so we could fill our cups with fresh glacial water and drink it. Eventually, we returned to shore for a seasonal tasting dinner at Storfjord's boathouse. The next day, we drove south to our first ferry crossing, one of many ferries that connect Norway's fjord communities. The last few miles through Noringsdalen were stunning before we arrived at Hotel Union Uriye, a historic luxury hotel that has welcomed royalty, explorers, and artists since 1891. That evening, we reserved the floating sauna on the Fjord.
Do not put this in there. Stop filming. Do not. I do not consent.
The next day, we went kayaking on the fjord, giving us a completely different perspective of the towering mountains. In the afternoon, I took an e-bike through Noringsdalen, known as the Queen's Route. Along the valley are traditional summer farm huts, where milkmaids once spent the summer tending livestock and making butter and cheese.
On our last day, we drove to Ålesund, where we climbed 418 steps to Mount Oxla viewpoint. There, we tried to rescue a robotic lawnmower that became stuck. We strolled along Brusundet, a charming canal lined with colorful Art Nouveau buildings. We visited the Kube to see the dreamlike and mystical paintings of Swedish artist Tyra Kleen.